Congratulations, you've just joined the Sith Order. You're about to become one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, not quite. Either your boss or your apprentice is already plotting to kill you. In this video, we're exploring the life inside the Sith Empire by imagining you, just a regular person, trying to survive a single day. Spoiler, you're probably not going to last very long. So sit back, grab a snack, and let the galaxy fade around you. Now, let's begin. Trying to explain the Sith is like trying to explain a black hole by poking it with a stick. You're not going to get the whole picture, and you'll probably lose the stick. But let's give it a shot. The first thing you got to understand is that, at its heart, it's not being evil for evil's sake. For them, it's a logical conclusion. It's the end result of a very simple, very seductive question. What if I never had to answer to anyone ever again? First off, forget balance. Forget the light side, the dark side, all that Jedi talk of harmony, and we serve the Force. That's not their language. That's the language of servants. The core, the absolute beating heart of the Sith is one thing, freedom. But not the kind of freedom we think of. Not freedom to do something, like freedom to vote, or freedom to choose your own hyperdrive. It's freedom from. Freedom from any rule, any law, any master, any limitation, especially the limitations you set for yourself. Your doubts, your fears, your morals, your compassion. Those are the heaviest chains, and the first ones they seek to shatter. Think about the most restrictive, annoying thing in your life. Your job, your landlord, traffic, that one friend who always orders the most expensive thing on the menu and then wants to split the bill evenly. Now imagine a philosophy that looks at all of that, every single chain that holds you down, and says, no, break it. That's the starting point. It's incredibly appealing, right? Who hasn't dreamed of telling their boss exactly where to stick it? The Sith just take that feeling and run with it, all the way to the edge of the galaxy, and then jump off, screaming the whole way down. This need for absolute freedom comes from a place they'd never admit out loud, a profound, galaxy-sized sense of entitlement. A Sith looks at the universe and doesn't see a shared home for all living things. He sees his property. He sees a puzzle that's missing pieces, and those pieces are his desires. And if the universe won't hand them over, well, you make it. You break what's in your way. You bend reality until it fits what you want. It's the ultimate tantrum, but with Force lightning and a cool helmet. That's where the Force comes in. This is the big difference. The Jedi see the Force as this sacred mystical energy field they serve. They listen to it. They try to be its humble little gardeners, pruning here, weeding there, trying to help life grow in accordance with its will. The Sith see the Force as the biggest, baddest, most powerful tool in the shed. It's not something to serve, it's something to use. It's a weapon, a lever, a key to every door. They don't want to be one with the Force. They want the Force to be one with them. They want to own it, to dominate it. It's the difference between a sailor who respects the sea and a pirate who just wants to strip the ship for parts and rum. And to own it, you got to fuel it. This is the part everyone gets right, honestly. The fuel is emotion. It's everything. Passion, rage, hatred, ambition, joy, love, yeah, even love. Anything that makes you feel alive, that makes your heart pound and your blood heat up. Emotion is power, pure, uncut, raw energy. A Jedi tries to quiet the storm inside. A Sith throws gasoline on it and revels in the heat. They don't see emotions as something to be controlled, but as something to be unleashed. Your anger that your friend betrayed you, don't meditate on it, use it, harness it, let it make you stronger so you can go back and make him regret it. It's a very immediate, very visceral kind of logic. The beautiful, horrible irony of the whole thing. In their quest for ultimate individual freedom, they always end up building the most restrictive, tyrannical, oppressive systems imaginable. They create empires with themselves at the top, and everyone below is a slave, a servant, or a future victim. They become the very masters they sought to destroy. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing more fire on it. You just get a bigger fire. A Sith Lord is the freest being in the galaxy, but only because he's built a cage for everyone else. He's free because no one else is. And this leads to the second unshakable rule of Sith life, the master-apprentice dynamic. This isn't a teacher-student thing like the Jedi have, with classes and group meditation and getting a gold star for trying. This is a predator-prey relationship disguised as a mentorship. The rule of two, which we'll get into way later, is just the formal version of a law that's existed since the first Sith Lord looked at his underling and thought, he's getting strong, I should kill him soon. The Master's goal is to have an apprentice, strong enough to be useful, a blunt instrument, a brilliant strategist, a pair of hands to do the dirty work, but not so strong that they can't be controlled. The apprentice's goal is to learn everything the Master knows and then kill them the second they show a moment of weakness. It's the deadliest game of chicken you can possibly imagine. It's a cycle of betrayal that's baked into the cake. You can't have a Sith Order without it. Trust is the one chain a Sith will never tolerate, so it has to be the first one to break. It creates this constant paranoid tension. Is my apprentice plotting? Is my master planning to replace me? It means a Sith is never, ever truly at peace. Even in victory, they're looking over their shoulder. That's the price of that freedom. This is why they're so obsessed with the past. Jedi venerate their history. Sith study theirs like a manual for the perfect backstab. They're obsessed with relics, holocrons, ancient texts, not to preserve knowledge for future generations, but to find the tricks their ancestors used, to learn how Darth whoever manipulated a whole system into rebellion, or how another Sith Lord performed a ritual to drain the life from a planet. History is just a toolbox for future conquests. Every artifact is a potential weapon. Every old ghost has a secret to exploit. And all of this whole messy, violent, self-destructive philosophy is wrapped up in a single, simple word: power. Power is the point. Power is the journey and the destination. Not just political power or military power, but personal, metaphysical power. Power over nature, power over life and death, power over the minds of others, and ultimately, power over the Force itself. A Sith's life is a never-ending climb up an infinite ladder, and every rung is made of the people they've used and broken on the way up. The fall is inevitable. The only question is how long you can climb before someone stronger pulls you down. It's a lonely way to live. Imagine looking at every single person you meet, and your first thought is, can they help me get more powerful? Or are they a threat to my power? You can't have friends. You can't have allies. You have assets and obstacles. It's a philosophy that consumes everything, especially the person who believes in it. You start by breaking your chains, and you end up with nothing left but the will to break more things. It's empty, but in that emptiness, they find a kind of terrible, pure purpose. So that's the foundation. It's not a government or a species. It's a mindset. It's an addiction to freedom so extreme that it becomes the worst kind of prison. It's the belief that your will is the most important thing in the galaxy, and that everyone and everything else is just raw material to make that will a reality. It's selfishness, weaponized and amplified by cosmic energy. And the craziest part, the most terrifying part, it works. It absolutely works. They get everything they ever wanted. They stand at the absolute peak, completely and utterly free, right up until the moment it all comes crashing down, because a system built on betrayal can only ever have one ending. So, you wake up. But it's not to some gentle alarm tone or the smell of cafe brewing. Nah, it's to the distant echoing sound of a gong made from something that probably shouldn't be a gong. Bone, maybe? You don't ask, you just know it's time to get up. This is Korriban. And buddy, let me tell you, this place is a fixer-upper's nightmare. The air is thick and dry, tastes like rust and hot sand. The sun's always either blazing down, cooking the red stone of the valley, or it's gone, leaving you in a darkness so complete you feel like you're suffocating. There's no in-between, no nice breezy spring afternoon here. You're Sith, pure blood, and that means something from the moment you're born. It's not a species known for its chill vibes. Your skin has this reddish tint, these facial tendrils that you kind of just get used to. And your eyes? Yeah, they're that classic blazing yellow. You don't get those from a lack of sleep, man. You get those from bathing in the dark side of the Force since you were a kid. It's a lifestyle. From the moment you can walk, you're in the game. And the game is simple. Prove you're not the weakest link. There's no such thing as a playground on Korriban. There are training grounds. There are sparring circles. There are the tombs of ancient Sith Lords who'd probably eat your soul for breakfast if you got too close. Your childhood isn't filled with toys and games. It's filled with duels, scars, and lessons written in blood. Your first word isn't mama or dada. It's probably mine or fight. You learn to count not with blocks, but by counting the number of times you get knocked down before you decide to stay down. Compassion? That's a fairy tale for other species in softer parts of the galaxy. On Korriban, compassion is a death sentence. If you see another kid fall and scrape their knee, you don't help them up. You step on their hand, you take their portion of food, because that's the lesson. Strength is everything. Weakness is a vacuum, and it will get you and everyone around you killed. Your parents don't coddle you. If you come crying to them because some bigger kid stole your things, they'll backhand you for being weak enough to let it happen. Their love isn't shown through hugs, it's shown through pushing you harder, through making you tougher, because they know the world outside your door will not give you a single break, ever. You're taught about King Ardus before you're taught your own family name. Ardus, he's the ideal, the pinnacle. He was a Sith pure, born from the heart of Korriban itself, and he ruled for centuries. He didn't rule through diplomacy or kindness. He ruled because he was the strongest being on the planet. He united the tribes not with words, but by breaking anyone who stood against him. He's the ghost every kid is trying to measure up to. You're not told you can be anything you want. You're told you will be strong or you will be dead. There is no third option. Your education isn't math and science, it's history, the history of conquest. It's tactics. It's how to spot an enemy's weakness and exploit it without mercy. Your anger at being wronged, that's fuel. Your hatred for the kid who bested you in a spar, that's focus. Your ambition to rise above your station, that's your destiny calling. They teach you to reach into that well of pain and fury and pull power from it. It's not a gentle nudge, it's a violent, wrenching pull that leaves you breathless and buzzing. But oh, the power. You feel invincible. This creates a culture that is just relentless. It's a society built on a pyramid, and everyone is constantly trying to claw their way to the top, usually by pushing someone else off. There's no trust. There are alliances of convenience. You might partner with someone for a trial, but you both know the second the trial is over, one of you might turn on the other. It keeps you sharp. Paranoia isn't a mental illness there, it's a survival skill. You learn to sleep with one eye open, literally. The constant pressure doesn't break everyone. It forges some into weapons of unimaginable power. But for everyone who makes it, there are a dozen who break. They vanish from the training grounds. Their name stops being spoken. They become a cautionary tale, a lesson in what happens when you're not strong enough. You don't get a memorial, you get forgotten. It's the worst fate imaginable on a world where legacy and power are the only things that matter. So you fight. Every day you fight. You fight for your food, for your place in the training circle, for a moment of your instructor's approval, which is usually just a grunt and a "you didn't die today, do better tomorrow." You go to bed aching, bruised, with new cuts to add to your collection, and you dream of power. You dream of the day you'll have a lightsaber of your own, not a training blade. You dream of making your ancestors' ghosts look upon you with respect instead of scorn. You dream of your name being spoken with fear. It's a brutal, ugly, terrifying way to live. But for a kid born into it, it's the only world they know. The constant fear, the ever-present threat of violence, it becomes normal. The hum of rage in your blood becomes your heartbeat. The desire to dominate becomes your first thought in the morning and your last at night. You don't wonder if there's a better way, because you've been taught from birth that any other way is weakness, and weakness is death. That's the foundation. That's the crucible. Imagine you're just going about your day, maybe practicing how to make a rock float by being really, really angry at it. And you hear this sound. This is a sharp, tearing scream from the sky itself. You look up and you see it, a fireball. It's holding its shape, cutting through the atmosphere, and it slams into the valley a few miles away. The whole planet holds its breath. Turns out it's a ship, but not like anything we've ever built. Ours are for crossing deserts, maybe getting to the next continent. This came from the stars. They're aliens to you, but they don't look weak. They don't look scared. They move with a silence that's louder than any war cry. They wear robes, but they're tattered, stained from battle, and on their hips, hilts. They don't look like weapons, not until they're ignited. These are the Dark Jedi, the Exiles, and their story is almost as wild as ours. See, they didn't start out as some conquering horde. They started on the other side of the galaxy as Jedi, the good guys, the keepers of peace and justice. But a war broke out among them, the 100-Year Darkness, which, gotta say, is a pretty metal name for a war. It was a civil war, a philosophical fistfight on a galactic scale. On one side, you had the Jedi, who said the Force was about serenity, peace, knowledge, all that calm stuff. On the other, You had a group who looked at the Force and saw something else. They saw passion. They saw strength. They saw that anger, properly focused, could move mountains faster than a Zen mantra. They believed emotion wasn't a weakness to be suppressed. It was a power source to be plugged into. Well, as it often goes with philosophical fistfights, the Serenity guys won. The rebels, the ones who tapped into their anger, they were defeated. But the Jedi Council didn't just kick them out. That would have been too kind. They stripped them of their ranks, branded them traitors, and exiled them. They shoved them on a ship, pointed them towards the unknown regions, and basically said, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out into the infinite, terrifying void of space." So these guys, they're not tourists. They're refugees. They're pissed off, humiliated, and armed with a lifetime of Jedi training that they're now twisting into something new, something raw. They're bleeding and angry, and they've got nothing left to lose. They drift through space for who knows how long, probably using the Force just to keep the ship from falling apart. And by pure chance, or maybe by the will of the dark side itself, they stumble upon Korriban. And they land in what is essentially the galaxy's biggest, most violent anger management retreat. At first, our people, the Sith purebloods, we see them as invaders. And you know how we deal with invaders? We send the armies, the greatest warriors, the most powerful sorcerers. We come at them with everything we have. It should have been a slaughter, it wasn't. That's when we saw it. The first lightsaber ignite. This blade of pure, crackling energy, the color of blood. One of the exiles, probably their leader, a guy named Ajunta Pal. He doesn't even flinch. He just moves. Our warriors charge and he's like a whirlwind. Their swords, he slices through them like they're nothing. Their sorcery, he bats the lightning bolts aside with his blade or absorbs them outright. It's not a fight, it's a demonstration. He's got the refined skill of a Jedi duelist, but he's fueled by a dark side passion that feels familiar to us, but purer, more focused. He's what we've been trying to be for millennia, but we never had the blueprint. We were working with blunt instruments. He shows up with a laser scalpel. It's a complete and total culture shock. For the first time ever, we meet our match. Actually, we meet our superiors. And for a culture that only respects strength, that's the most important moment in our history. They don't wipe us out. Why would they? They're exiles. They're alone. They need a home. They need an army. And they look at us, and they don't see primitives to be conquered. Well, not just that. They see potential. They see a people already steeped in the dark side, already worshipping power. We're the perfect clay for them to mold. So Ajunta Pal and his crew, they do something brilliant. They don't defeat our armies. They offer them a choice. Serve and learn. Become part of something greater, or die. It's a pretty easy multiple choice question, really. And that's where the magic happens, the merger. Think about it. You had the raw, untamed power. Your sorcery was instinctual, like a volcano, incredibly powerful, but unpredictable. It was all about calling up spirits, blood rituals, cursing your enemies. Powerful, but messy. They had the discipline, the knowledge. The Jedi taught them how to control the Force, how to focus it, how to use it with precision. They knew about telekinesis, mind tricks, foresight, all that stuff. They just were now using their anger to power it instead of suppressing it. So you get this insane fusion. Your native Sith magics get supercharged with their Jedi techniques. It's like giving a master chef a bunch of explosive new ingredients he's never seen before. The recipes they start cooking up are terrifying. They start building on your traditions. They see your temples and they don't destroy them. They build bigger ones on top of them. They take your language and weave their own words into it. They look at your ancestor worship and go, yeah, that's cool, but what if we could actually bind those spirits to our will and make them serve us forever? It's not a replacement, it's an upgrade, a terrifying dark side fueled upgrade. Ajunta Pal doesn't become a warlord, he becomes a king, a god king. He's crowned the first Dark Lord of the Sith. The name of our species becomes the name of this new hybrid order. And life for the average pureblood, it changes overnight. Now you have to understand this new hierarchy. The Dark Jedi are at the top, the new aristocracy. They're the masters. The most powerful and cunning purebloods become their apprentices. They're knights, they're enforcers. They get to learn the new ways, lightsaber combat, the focused use of the Force. It's the ultimate meritocracy. If you're strong, you can rise, maybe even earn a place at a Dark Lord's side. If you're weak, you get relegated to the bottom. You become a labourer, a soldier in the new armies they're building, a slave really, but even that is framed as strength. Serving the powerful is your purpose. The Dark Lords have a vision. They're talking about empires, about stars. They're building war machines, planning conquests on a scale we never dreamed of. The ambition in the air is so thick you can taste it, and it tastes like ozone and blood. The old ways aren't gone, they're the foundation. But now there's a framework built on top of it. It's like we were a powerful, wild river, and the Dark Jedi showed up and built a dam and a hydroelectric plant. They channeled all that chaotic power and gave it a purpose. This moment right here is the Big Bang. This is where the Sith Order, as the galaxy comes to fear, it is truly born. Not from one culture, but from two broken ones crashing together and creating something monstrous and powerful and forever changed. It's the end of the beginning, and the beginning of everything else. So, the Dark Jedi are in charge. A Junta Pal is sitting on a throne that probably has a really uncomfortable amount of spikes on it, trying to figure out how to turn a planet of angry, powerful tribals into a functioning government. It's one thing to conquer a place with a lightsaber. It's a whole other thing to make the trains run on time when the train conductor might try to kill you to take your job. But they manage it. Korriban isn't an angry rock anymore. It's the capital of something. It's the heart of an empire. And man, you gotta see this place now. It's not only caves and tombs anymore. It's a proper civilization. It's like we went from a bunch of scrappy, warring neighborhoods to a terrifyingly efficient multinational corporation. But instead of selling products, we're selling absolute domination. Expansion isn't a goal, it's destiny. Conquest isn't something you do, it's your duty, your reason for breathing. It's the answer to every question. Why are we building this? For the Empire. Why are we mining that? For the Empire. Why did Lord Grathan just force push his accountant out a window? Probably for the Empire. Imagine walking through the streets of the new Crown Jewel, a world called Droman Kars. They found this jungle planet shrouded in perpetual, raging storms, a place where the dark side bleeds into reality so thick you can almost chew it. And they thought, yeah, this is the vibe. This feels like home. The place is a monument to power. The streets are vast processional ways, wide enough to march a legion of soldiers, 20 abreast. They're made of polished black stone that gleams wetly under the constant lightning flashes. The buildings are statements carved in durasteel and obsidian, towering ziggurats and pyramids, covered from base to peak in intricate, ancient Sith script that hums, pulses with a low-level dark energy that makes the hair on your neck stand up. Lightning from the permanent storm overhead cracks across the sky every 10 seconds, each boom of thunder a drumbeat to this new life, each flash illuminating the giant grim statues of the Dark Lords that loom over every major plaza. It's like living inside a heavy metal album cover that's also a religious text. It's oppressive, it's intimidating, and after a while, you can't imagine living anywhere else. It feels like power, and it's not just warriors and sorcerers anymore. Sure, there's still the glamorous face of the operation, the pointy end of the stick. But now there's everyone else, the cogs in the machine. You've got merchants in sprawling, chaotic bazaars selling everything from exotic spiced meats from recently conquered worlds to bootleg Sith holocrons and illegal talismans from under a counter. The air smells of incense, sizzling meat, ozone, and the faint, metallic tang of fear. You've got architects and engineers, not just arguing over load-bearing walls, but over the best way to structure a temple's foundation, so it channels the dark side most efficiently into the meditation chambers. Is a pentagram or a hexagram better for focusing righteous fury? These are the water cooler conversations now. You've got bureaucrats. Can you believe it? Sith bureaucrats. Their robes might be less fancy, but their power is insidious. They are the logistics of fear. They're the ones in vast echoing archives, surrounded by flickering data pads, who make sure the tithes from 100 subjugated worlds get collected on time. They manage the slave populations, not as people, but as inventory numbers, calculating caloric intake for maximum productivity versus minimum cost. They schedule the troop transports, the supply lines for the fleets, the allotment of hypermatter fuel. Their weapons aren't lightsabers, they're quotas, forms filed in triplicate, and the sudden chilling audit that can end a minor lord's career. It's a different kind of Sith Lord, the kind who kills you with paperwork and a politely worded communique stating you have been reassigned to waste reclamation duty on a toxic moon. There are laws now. Real, written down laws, stored on indestructible alloy plates and in data servers guarded by droids and demons. The Code of the Sith isn't a cool poem you chant before a fight anymore. It's the Constitution, and its core is brutally simple. The strong rule. The weak serve. The will of the strong is the only law that ultimately matters. But it's got layers, because you can't have a galactic empire if everyone is constantly stabbing everyone else in the back over the last cup of caf. That's just chaos, anarchy, and anarchy is inefficient. Your life in all this? It depends entirely on who you are, your species, your force sensitivity, your family name. It's all a caste system, written in blood. If you're a Sith pureblood, even a low-ranking one, life is pretty good. You're part of the master race, the original stock. You're living, breathing history. You're probably serving in the military, part of the legions that are constantly pushing our borders out further into the unknown. Your job is to train, to fight, and to conquer. You get the best food, the best quarters near the temple spires, the respect, or at least the fearful avoidance, of everyone beneath you. You might even have a human slave or two to polish your armor and sharpen your weapons. Your purpose is clear and celebrated. Bring glory to the Empire and to yourself. Your victories are praised. Your name might be inscribed on a wall somewhere. You are the embodiment of the Empire's ideal. But let's say you're not. Let's say you're human or near human. You're a citizen, but that title is a sliding scale. You could be a skilled starship mechanic, which means you've got value. You live in a small utilitarian apartment in the mid-level city blocks. You do your job. You keep your head down. You might even enjoy the spectacle of the Empire, the overwhelming military parades, the newsreels of victories from the front, the sense of being part of something vast and powerful. You feel a twisted sense of pride when a new world is added to the star maps. But you never ever look a Sith pureblood in the eye. You know your place. You step off the sidewalk when they pass. You speak only when spoken to. Your safety is a fragile thing, dependent on your utility and your invisibility. Or you could be a slave. And let's be real, most people are. This entire glorious, terrifying empire is built on their backs. You're the one down in the deep, dark cortosis mines, choking on dust, swinging a pickaxe until your hands bleed. You're the one on the orbital shipyards, welding hull plates in the freezing vacuum, tethered to your spot by a safety line that your overseer might just cut if you're too slow. You're scrubbing the floors in the temples with harsh chemicals that burn your lungs, always careful not to smudge the dark sigils etched into the stone. Your life is hard, short, and owned by someone else. You are property, an asset number. You have no rights, no name, no future. The only law that protects you is the same law that protects a speeder bike from being deliberately smashed. Damaging valuable property is a waste of resources. It's a grim, hopeless existence. The constant psychic pressure of the dark side is like a weight on your soul, a voice in the back of your head whispering despair every single day. You sleep in crowded, foul-smelling barracks. You eat tasteless nutrient paste, and you wake up to do it all again. Your only rebellion is a whispered joke, a stolen moment of rest, a fleeting look of solidarity with another slave. This is the foundation everything else is built on. The glorious Sith Empire has a very, very dirty basement, and looming over this entire society are the iconic figures, the rock stars of this whole messed up system. They're legends. They're the examples everyone is taught to aspire to or to fear. There's Marka Ragnos. Now there was a Dark Lord. For 100 years he held the Empire together, not just through fear, but through sheer undeniable force of personality and political genius. He was the guy who settled bitter, violent disputes between rival Sith Lords not by taking sides, but by having them both kneel before him. He was a peerless warrior, a sorcerer of unimaginable depth, and a statesman who understood that an empire needs stability to grow. His reign was a golden age, a black age, but you know what I mean. It was stable, prosperous. The machine worked perfectly. The borders expanded, the infrastructure grew, the arts of war and sorcery were refined. He was the empire at its peak of confidence and power. When he finally died, his funeral was a planetary event that lasted a week. They entombed him in the most magnificent pyramid in the Valley of the Dark Lords on Korriban, and the stories say his spirit was so powerful it never really left. It lingered for millennia, a ghostly referee, still handing out advice and settling arguments from beyond the grave. He was the ideal. Then you have his successor, Naga Sadow. He's the other side of the coin. If Ragnos was the wise, firm CEO who built a business empire, Sadow is the brilliant, ambitious, maybe a little unhinged visionary who wants to disrupt the entire galaxy. He's a master of Sith magic and illusions. A guy who thinks the best solution to a problem is the most dramatic one possible. He didn't just want to rule the empire, he wanted to expand it beyond anything Ragnos or anyone else had ever dreamed of. He looked at the stars and didn't see empty space. He saw a blank canvas, and his brush was a fleet of warships. He was the ultimate believer in the Empire's manifest destiny, the kind of guy who would use his magic to create illusory armies of millions to terrify his enemies, or who would figure out how to blow up a star just to win a single battle. He's the embodiment of that unchecked ambition, that addictive hunger for more, that is the Empire's greatest engine and its most dangerous flaw. Life under these figures is a constant paradox. It's incredibly organized, sophisticated, and yet constantly vibrating on the edge of utter chaos. You have a society with laws, markets, infrastructure, and even art. Dark, brutal art, but still art. Sculptures that seem to watch you as you walk by. Music that sounds less like a melody and more like a structured war chant designed to stir the blood. Plays that are just dramatic reenactments of history's most famous betrayals and assassinations. There's a culture here, a shared identity. But underneath the polished pavement, the foundation is still pure, raw, volcanic power. A Sith Lord can still walk into that bustling, organized market, decide he doesn't like the look on a merchant's face, and force choke him into oblivion right there in front of his stall. And no one will do anything. The market might go quiet for a moment, people will look away, and then business will continue. The body will be dragged away by slaves, the stall will be reassigned to someone else, and it will be as if it never happened. That's just the price of doing business in a civilization where power is the ultimate currency. The ever-present threat of sudden arbitrary violence is the electricity that powers the entire grid. It's what keeps the slaves obedient, the citizens compliant, and the ambitious Sith in line, always looking over their shoulder. It is the most terrifying, exhilarating, and oppressive place in the galaxy, and for the first time, to those living in its heart, it feels like it will last forever. The idea that it could ever fall is simply unthinkable. The Sith Empire is eternal. It has to be. The alternative is too dark to even consider. You ever have one of those days where everything is just going perfectly? You're on top of the world, your job's going great, you just got a promotion, you're feeling strong, invincible even. And then you step outside and get hit by a bus you never saw coming. That's the Great Hyperspace War for the Sith Empire. We were that guy feeling invincible. The bus was the Galactic Republic. See, for centuries, we'd been this myth. A ghost story the Jedi told their younglings to scare them. Be good, or the Sith will get you. They didn't really think we were out here. They thought they'd wiped out the Dark Jedi exiles, and that was that. Meanwhile, we're over here, building our empire, conquering system after system in the unknown regions, getting stronger and angrier and more sure of our own destiny. Then two idiots in a spaceship got lost. I'm not even joking, that's how it starts. A couple of Republic explorers, Gav and Jory Darrigan, are trying to find a new hyperspace route to cut down on shipping costs or something, probably trying to get a bonus. They miscalculate, their ship gets thrown halfway across the galaxy, and they tumble out of hyperspace right into the middle of the Sith Empire. Can you imagine? The Darrigans get captured, brought before the Dark Lord, Naga Sadow himself. And this is where Sadow's ambition, that big hunger, meets its moment. He sees a gift, a divine invitation. They're not a threat, they're a roadmap. Their ship's nav computer is a guided tour straight to the heart of the Republic he's been dreaming of conquering. He decides to use them. He plays the gracious host, even though everyone in the room can feel he's about to vibrate out of his skin with excitement. This causes a huge rift with his rival, Ludo Kresh, who's like, "This is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas. We're doing great out here. Why would we poke the sleeping rancor?" But Sadow's not hearing it. Destiny is calling, and it's calling collect from Coruscant. So Sadow sets his plan in motion. He uses his insane mastery of Sith illusion to create a giant, fake fleet around the Darrigon's ship, making it look like they're some kind of advanced scout for a massive invasion force. He sends them back to the Republic, basically as a Trojan horse that's screaming, "We're coming for you." The Republic and the Jedi, seeing this terrifying, illusionary armada, panic, exactly as planned. They scramble their defenses. They're looking outwards, waiting for the big attack. But the attack isn't out there. Sado's real fleet is already on the move, using the path the Darragon's ship took. He doesn't attack the core worlds first. He's smart. He hits the outer rim. Systems that are barely part of the Republic, poorly defended, soft targets. And this is where the war starts for guys like you and me. If you're a Sith warrior, it's the best day of your life. All that training, all that posturing, it's finally for real. You're part of a battle group dropping onto some backwater world called Koros or something. The landing ramps drop, and you charge out into the sunlight, lightsaber blazing, the roar of your troops behind you. The local militia, they've never seen anything like you. They're firing blasters, and you're deflecting bolts back at them. Your pureblood comrades are unleashing Force lightning. It's a total rout. It's a victory. It's easy. You take the planet in a day. You set up an occupation government, put a Sith overseer in charge, and you're back on the ship, heading to the next target. The news feeds back to the Empire are nothing but victory after victory. Parades on Dromund Kaas. We're unstoppable. We're gods. This is what we were born for. But then, the Jedi show up. The first time you see one, and it's confusing. You're in the middle of securing some mining facility, and this ship lands. Out steps this figure in simple robes. You attack because of course you do. You unleash all your fury, your hatred, the dark side power that has crushed everyone else. It's like trying to fight a river. They flow around your attacks. They don't fight with anger. They fight with this maddening precision. Their lightsaber is a constant humming blur. They use the Force not as a weapon to crush, but as a tool to deflect, to unbalance, to protect. You might win that first fight. There are more of you, but the feeling stays with you. They're different, and they're not alone. The Republic gets its act together. The Jedi start appearing at every battle. The easy victories stop. The grinding sieges start. If you're a soldier now, your life becomes a nightmare of entrenched warfare. Instead of glorious charges, you're digging trenches on some mudball planet under constant artillery fire from Republic tanks. You're fighting in the streets of cities we just conquered, where every window could hide a sniper, every alley an ambush. The fleets above the planet are where it gets really terrifying. You're a gunner on a Sith battle cruiser. There's the smell of ozone and burned metal. Through the viewport you see fighters, both ours and theirs, spinning and exploding in silent, beautiful flowers of fire. You see a ship nearby, maybe one you had friends on, break in half and get sucked into its own reactor breach. It's not glorious anymore. It's noise and fear, and trying not to vomit in your helmet. And then, the hammer blow falls. The Republic finds our capital. They find Korriban. Naga Sado, in the middle of directing the war from his meditation sphere, gets word that the home front is under attack. He panics. He abandons the entire fleet, right in the middle of a crucial battle, and uses his magic to create a massive illusion to cover his escape. He runs for it, leaving every single one of his forces, his entire empire, to twist in the wind. The head of the snake has been cut off and has slithered away to save its own skin. The collapse is instantaneous, and it is absolute. On the front lines, it means your command structure evaporates. Orders stop coming. Reinforcements never arrive. The ships that were supposed to cover your retreat are already jumping to hyperspace, their captains saving their own skins. You're left behind on some forgotten world, surrounded by a Republic that is now righteously pissed off, and a Jedi Order that has your number. But that's nothing compared to what happens back home. Terror doesn't even begin to describe it. The core worlds of the Sith Empire, places like Zeost and Korriban, had lived in absolute security for 1,000 years. War was something we did to other people, far away. Now, it's here. Republic fleets fill the skies. Jedi landing ships touch down in the sacred plazas of Dromund Kaas. There is no great battle for the capital. The heart just gives out. The government, the bureaucracy, the hierarchy, it all just shatters. It's every being for themselves. If you're a Sith pureblood, you're a target. The Jedi are hunting you specifically. Your power, your connection to the dark side, is a beacon. You try to fight, but it's hopeless. The legions are broken, scattered. You're not a soldier anymore, you're a fugitive. If you're a citizen or a slave, it's pure chaos. The power is out. The food distribution stops. The gangs and the warlords who were kept in check by the Dark Lords now see their chance and start carving out little fiefdoms in the ruins, fighting each other while the Republic closes in. Naga Sadow is the architect of it all. His ambition lit the fuse and his cowardice sealed our fate. He becomes the ultimate symbol of betrayal. He didn't fall fighting, he ran and hid, taking a handful of his most loyal followers and vanishing into the darkest space he could find, leaving the rest of us to burn. Then there's Ludo Kresh, Sadow's rival. He was right all along. He argued against the war, warned it would be our doom, but in the end, his story is just as tragic. He tried to seize power in the chaos, to declare himself Dark Lord and rally a defense, but it was too late. The Empire was already dead. It just hadn't stopped moving yet. He died fighting, not the Republic, but in a petty squabble with Sadow's forces before the real end even came. He was right, but it didn't matter. Being right doesn't stop a blaster bolt. The Great Hyperspace War wasn't a war we lost. It was a universe that fell on us. The Republic and Jedi didn't stick around to occupy us. They just left. They broke everything, made sure we couldn't get back up, and went home. They left us in the ruins of our own empire, surrounded by the ghosts of our ambition, with nothing but the taste of ash and the terrifying question, what now? Okay, so the party's over, the music's stopped, the house is trashed, and the cops have left, but you're still hiding in the closet, hoping they don't come back for a second look. That's what it felt like after the Great Hyperspace War. The Republic and the Jedi patted themselves on the back, gave each other medals, and figured the job was done. The Sith were finished. But you don't just finish an idea. You can't kill a shadow. You can only make it hide better. You can force it into the cracks and corners, and that's where it gets really, really patient. That's what we became. Shadows. Ghosts. The survivors of the collapse? We weren't an army anymore. We were a diaspora of despair and stubbornness. We were scattered like embers from a huge, crashed starship, each one landing alone in the dark, hoping to not go out. Your life, if you were one of the lucky, or maybe unlucky, ones to make it, became a 24/7 masterclass in survival. Imagine the scene. The core worlds are just rubble. Korriban is a ghost town, a museum of its own dead glory, haunted by the whispers of 1,000 failed Dark Lords. Dromund Kaas is a storm-racked ruin, the lightning now just illuminating empty halls and toppled statues. There's no government, no army, no infrastructure. It's every being for themselves, so you run. You grab whatever you can carry, a family talisman, a cracked holocron that might still have a sliver of knowledge, a vibroblade, some mouldy ration packs, and you bolt for the spaceport. It's chaos. Everyone is trying to get on a ship. Fights break out over a spot on a rusted freighter. You see a former S-Lord, a guy who once commanded fleets, get shoved aside and left behind because he's not fast enough. There's no respect anymore. There's only the desperate animal need to get away. You don't have a destination. You just point your ship away from the Republic, away from the core, and you fly. You jump to hyperspace until the fuel runs low, or you find some place that looks so forgotten, so utterly worthless, that you hope the Republic will never bother to chart it. These little ragged groups of survivors, we ended up in the most remote, miserable corners of the galaxy. Frozen asteroids in dead systems with no sun. Jungle moons, so dense and toxic, the canopy blots out the sky and the air burns your lungs. Life in these places was defined by one thing, and one thing only, the constant, gnawing, paralyzing fear of discovery. It was the air we breathed. You couldn't use the Force openly. The slightest ripple, the smallest surge of dark side energy, and a Jedi scout ship on the other side of the sector might sense the disturbance. It was like having a scream stuck in your throat every second of every day. The grand, bloody Sith religion, the rites we held in huge temples with chanting that shook the walls, that had to be scaled down, way, way down. Our traditions became secrets. Our heritage became a bedtime story we were afraid to tell. Our holocrons were contraband, hidden in false floorboards, only brought out on certain nights, handled with a reverence that was now mixed with terror. We became a people of ghosts, hiding in the attic of the galaxy, tending our little ember of hatred, waiting for a wind to blow it back into a flame. We waited and waited. We waited for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of fear, of slow, quiet change. And then you wake up as Exar Kun. And this, my friend, is like a turning point for Sith now. To understand Exar Kun, you have to forget everything you think you know about a Sith. You weren't a Sith. You were a survivor from the remnants. You didn't have a drop of Sith pureblood in you. You were a Jedi. And not just any Jedi. You were the rock star of the Jedi Order. Young, incredibly powerful, charismatic, handsome. The guy who had it all. You were the kind of Jedi they put on recruitment posters. You were what every young Padawan wanted to be. But you had that itch, that intellectual arrogance, that hunger for knowledge they told you was forbidden. You were a historian, an archaeologist of the Force, and you went poking around where you shouldn't have. You found the tomb of Freeden Nad, an ancient Dark Lord, on the planet Onderon. And the spirit of Nad, which had been waiting a long time for a suitable victim, started whispering to you. It was a slow poison, showing you just a taste of the power you could have, stoking your ego, convincing you the Jedi were holding you back. This is where your story becomes a slow-motion, tragic masterpiece of falling apart. It's not a sudden turn, it's a slide. You go on a pilgrimage, chasing this dark knowledge. You end up on Korriban itself, walking through the dust of our dead empire. And then you go to Yavin 4, and you find the tomb of none other than Naga Sadow himself. And there, in the heart of that moss-covered ancient temple, surrounded by the ghosts of our greatest failure, you do it. You fully give in, a presence burning like a new dark star. This was it, the return, the Messiah we'd been waiting a millennium for. This was a lightning strike. This was a firework. It was going to bring the Jedi down on us all over again and finish the job for good. You didn't care about our cautious hidden ways. You were a force of nature. You went back to the Jedi, but now you were something new, something dangerous and seductive. You started recruiting. You seduced other Jedi, the best and the brightest, the ones who were also bored and frustrated with the Order's rules. You created your own Brotherhood of Darkness right under the Jedi's nose. Your most famous recruit was another prodigy, Ulic Kel Droma. Together, you were unstoppable. Your war, the Great Sith War, wasn't like the Hyperspace War. That was Empire versus Republic. This was a cancer. It was a civil war within the Jedi Order itself. It was the ultimate betrayal. It was your best friend, the guy you trained with since you were a kid, the one you trusted with your life, suddenly turning on you with a red lightsaber and a cold smile. The Jedi didn't know who to trust. It broke them from the inside. The things you did, they were insane, glorious, and horrific. You rediscovered Sith sorceries we'd forgotten in our exile. You built a new war fleet. You unleashed armies of Terentatex, force-eating monsters, on Jedi enclaves. You used ancient Sith magic to create thought bombs and drain the life from entire worlds. You even managed to turn the Mandalorians into your allies for a while, just to cause more chaos and mayhem. The galaxy was on fire. The Jedi were being pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. It was terrifying, and I have to admit, a little thrilling to watch from our hiding places. After 1,000 years of hiding, someone was finally fighting back. For a little while, you dared to hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe the long exile was over. Maybe you could come out of the shadows and rebuild. But you, for all your power, were still a Jedi at heart, and that meant you had a fatal flaw. You couldn't imagine your own side losing. The Jedi, backed into a corner, fought back with everything they had. The final battle was on your stronghold, Yavin 4. The Jedi fleet, in a move of sheer desperation, didn't even try to land. They just surrounded the moon and bombarded it from orbit. They turned the surface into a firestorm. You, facing total and utter defeat, performed one last, horrific, universe-breaking act of sorcery. You gathered your remaining Massassi warriors, the primitive descendants of Naga Sadow's followers, and you performed a ritual. You tore the souls from every single one of them, using their life force, their agony, as a kind of spiritual anchor. You tethered your own spirit to the walls of your temple, obliterating your physical body and the bodies of your entire army in the process. You effectively committed suicide and genocide in one act, just to achieve a form of immortality. Just like that, it was over. The war ended. The flame you thought would reignite the Empire was snuffed out in the most violent way possible. But your legacy, that lived on. In a way, your defeat was almost more powerful than your victory would have been. You proved that the Sith didn't need a massive empire. They didn't need fleets or pure-blood armies. All they needed was one charismatic, powerful, utterly ruthless individual who knew how to tap into that anger and how to sell it to others. You showed that the Jedi Order was deeply, fundamentally vulnerable to corruption from within. You created the blueprint for the modern Sith Lord, the lone wolf, the tempter, the hidden knife in the robes of the Republic. For those still hiding in the dark, your explosive rise and catastrophic fall was the most important lesson they would ever get. It was a brutal, bloody lesson, written in fire and souls. It taught them that a direct, head-on attack was doomed to fail. It taught them that secrecy, patience, and manipulation were their greatest weapons. It taught them that the next time, it wouldn't be about raising a flag on a battlefield. It would be about pulling the strings from the dark, slowly, carefully, until the whole galaxy was dancing to your tune without even knowing who the musician was. Years passed, the galaxy healed in some places, burned in others, and now you are stepping into the shoes of one of the most insidious, cunning, and terrifying Sith to ever walk the galaxy, the Emperor Darth Vitiate. Alright, so picture this. You're not some chosen one in a prophecy. Your story starts in the mud, literally. A cramped, damp hut carved into the side of a cliff on a planet called Nathema. This isn't a place of power, it's a hiding hole. The last ragged remnants of the Sith Empire ended up here after the Republic smashed them to bits. All of them huddling together, jumping at their own shadows, terrified that any day a Republic fleet might show up and finish the job. It's less a society and more a group of scared refugees, telling each other stories about the good old days, trying to pretend there's still something important. Your parents, they're nobodies. Your mum knows a few parlour tricks with the dark side, just enough to make her bitter and resentful that her life is this boring. Your dad talks a big game about being a mighty warrior, but he's mostly just a bully with a lot of anger and nothing to direct it at. They're small, petty people, and from the moment you can understand anything, you realise they're terrified of you. See, you're different. It's not that you have tantrums, it's that you feel everything. The entire village's emotional static floods into your head, a constant, unbearable noise you can't shut off. You feel the old man down the path, his heart fluttering weakly, scared of the pain. You feel the woman next door, her gut twisting with jealousy, because her neighbour got a slightly bigger portion of the bland nutrient paste they all eat. You feel the low-grade constant anxiety of everyone, all the time. It's a buzzing, itching, maddening hum in the back of your skull, and it never, ever stops. And then you discover you can do more than just listen. You're just a little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and another kid tries to snatch the piece of rotten fruit you're eating. A cold, sharp anger rises in you, and you push that feeling at him, not with your hands, but with your mind. And for a single, breathtaking second, the constant noise in your head stops. It goes completely, utterly silent. And in that silence, you feel a calm you've never known. It's peace, real peace. And just like that, you're addicted. The only way to get that silence, that peace, is to take it from others. It starts small, and you learn to be careful. The neighbour's scuttling pet creature gets sick and dies after you pet it. You feel a little stronger. The noise fades for a whole hour. The old man who was always yelling at you to be quiet has a sudden shocking heart attack. The silence that follows is blissful. You learn to hide what you're doing, to make it look like accidents, like natural causes. You're a predator, learning to stalk in plain sight, and your prey is the life force of every living thing around you. Your parents are the first big test. Their fear of you is the loudest, most irritating noise of all. It's a constant screeching feedback loop in your head. What you do with them, you consume them. You pull every last bit of their fear, their anger, their petty regrets, their entire pathetic lives into yourself. And you feel powerful, truly powerful for the first time. But consuming one man, even a powerful one, isn't enough. The hunger comes back, worse than before. You need more, and you need it all. That's when the idea forms. A cold, logical, mathematical conclusion. If taking one life gives you a moment of peace, and taking a powerful life gives you an hour, what would happen if you took every life on the planet at once? All the fear, all the anger, all the petty little energies of every single living thing, every person, every animal, every insect, every plant, consumed in a single, focused, galactic-scale ritual? Would that finally be enough? Would that silence last forever? You become utterly obsessed. This is your life's work now. You spend years, decades, studying every forbidden dark side text you can loot from the ruins, piecing together fragments of knowledge, combining ancient Sith sorcery with techniques you seem to intuitively understand. You're not doing this for power to rule others. You're doing it for peace, for the ultimate final quiet. You recruit followers, but not through inspiration or loyalty. You dominate them. They follow you because they've looked into your eyes and seen the void there. And they know, bone deep, that you can unmake them with a thought. You promise them a place in your new glorious empire, but it's a lie. They're just fuel. All of them. Tools to be used and then discarded. Now you stand at the center of a vast, intricate pattern carved into the earth, a network of dark side energy that you've woven to encompass the entire planet. Your followers are gathered around, chanting, their faces full of fanatical fervor. They truly believe they're about to witness a rebirth, to be part of something glorious that will restore the Sith to greatness. They have no idea they're about to become the kindling, the lives of the planet. You feel every single one, you feel their energy, and then you feel their final moments of confusion and absolute terror as their very essence is ripped from them and pulled into you. It's the loudest, most horrific noise you've ever experienced. A screaming, psychic hurricane of 1 billion deaths happening all at once. And then silence, absolute, total, perfect, and eternal silence. You stand alone on a dead world. You just drained the Force from an entire planet, Nathema. The Force itself is gone from this place, leaving a hollow, aching void where a world used to be. The buzzing in your head is gone, and the power is so far beyond anything any Sith in history ever dreamed of. You are eternal. You are no longer Tenebrae, that scared, hungry boy from the cliffside. You are Vitiate, the devourer of worlds, the immortal emperor. But a new thought occurs to you in that perfect, blissful silence. Now what? The hunger is gone, but the ambition remains. You have literally forever ahead of you. What do you do with it? You look up at the stars. The Republic is still out there. The Jedi, the entire galaxy that tried to wipe your people out. They're going about their business, growing, thriving, believing the Sith are a forgotten nightmare. They have no idea what just happened on this forgotten world. No idea what is now looking back at them from the darkness. You will build a new empire, yes, but not like the old, clumsy, obvious ones. This will be a masterpiece of patience and secrecy. You will become a ghost. You will hide in the unknown regions for centuries, building your strength in absolute secrecy. You will let the Republic grow fat, complacent and arrogant. You'll let them think they've won, that the dark side is defeated. You'll watch them from the shadows, learning their weaknesses, their politics, their petty squabbles. And when the time is exactly right, after 1,000 years of meticulous planning, you will step out of the shadows and show them what true, absolute power really looks like. You don't want to defeat the galaxy. You want to own it, to internalize it, to make its every breath a part of you. The boy from the mud hut is gone, the Emperor is born, and his work, his great and terrible masterpiece, has only just begun. The silence won't be complete until the entire galaxy is as quiet as Nathema. So the Sith have been in hiding and building their empire. The Republic gets complacent. The Jedi get comfortable. They think the Sith are basically extinct, just a boogeyman to scare Padawans. And now you're Revan. The first crack were the Mandalorians. And these aren't your average bad guys. This is a warrior culture on the march, believing that strength is the only true virtue. They start carving their way through the outer rim. They want a worthy opponent. The Jedi Council, true to form, hesitates. They want to meditate on the problem. They want to wait to see the larger picture in the Force. It's a classic move. But while they're meditating, worlds are burning, people are dying. Entire civilizations are being wiped out because the protectors of peace and justice are too busy contemplating peace and justice to actually provide any. This is where you and Malak come in. You're not council members. You're younger, you're passionate, and you're watching this happen in real time. You especially are a prodigy. You see the Mandalorian tactics not as mindless brutality, but as a kind of brutal art form, and you know how to break it. You and Malak say, to hell with the council, and you go to war. You take a bunch of other Jedi who are just as fed up. This group becomes known as the Revanchists. And you take command of the Republic fleet. Your strategies are insane, unpredictable. You win battles that are mathematically impossible. You become more than a general. You become a symbol, a hero, the one person actually doing something. But this is the crucial part. War changes you. It grinds you down. You and Malak go to the darkest corners of the galaxy to find an edge. You see the absolute worst the universe has to offer, and you start to ask dangerous questions. The Jedi way is peace, passivity, defense. But what if that's a luxury? What if, to truly save the galaxy, you have to be willing to embrace any tool, any power, no matter how dark? What if you have to become the monster to kill the monster? This is the birth of the idea that will fracture the galaxy. You decide the Republic is weak, it's corrupt, it's slow, it's paralyzed. It can't protect itself from external threats, and it can't govern itself effectively. The only way to truly save it is to conquer it, to take control by force and rebuild it into something stronger, more efficient, more orderly, to impose peace through absolute power. It's a terrifying, seductive, and utterly logical thought. So after you finally crush the Mandalorians at the Battle of Malachor, a victory so horrifying and dark side soaked, it literally scars the planet. You and Malak don't come home as heroes. You vanish into the unknown regions. The official story is you were lost, but what you're really doing is going on the darkest field trip imaginable. You're searching for the source of the Mandalorians' motivation, and you find something far bigger. The hidden remnants of Vitiate's Sith Empire. You learn the real Sith teachings, not the watered-down junk the various cults have been passing around, the hardcore, ancient stuff. And you find the key to everything, the Starforge, an ancient space station built by the Rakata. It's a factory that sucks energy from a star and can produce an infinite number of warships, droids, and weapons. It's the ultimate cheat code, but it's also drenched in the dark side. Using it doesn't just give you power, it amplifies everything inside you. Your ambition, your anger, your certainty, your hunger. You look at all of it, the weak republic, the invincible factory, the potent Sith philosophy, and your idea crystallizes. You and Malak return, but you don't come back as Jedi. You come back in terrifying masks and dark armor, at the head of a fleet the galaxy hasn't seen since the ancient Sith empires. And you don't come to save the Republic. You come to break it and rebuild it in your own image. This is the Jedi Civil War, and it's a special kind of nightmare because it's so deeply personal. You know the Republic's strategies because you invented most of them. You know the Jedi inside and out because you were their best and brightest. You're not some external, unknowable monster. You're their own hero. Come back to destroy them. You're the embodiment of their greatest fear, that their own ideals, when pushed to the extreme for the greater good, can curdle into something monstrous. Your tactics are a masterclass in psychological warfare. You don't conquer worlds, you break their will. You turn their own heroes against them. Jedi who fought beside you against the Mandalorians now find themselves facing their old general. And many of them join you, because you make a twisted kind of sense. You offer strength, certainty, and a clear purpose. But here's the classic Sith flaw. The apprentice always covets the master's throne. Malak is powerful, but he's always lived in your shadow. He's the brute force. You are the brains, the visionary, the one with the grand plan. Malak gets impatient. He gets greedy. During a battle, Republic forces, led by a powerful young Jedi named Bastila Shan, have your flagship cornered. Malak sees his chance. In a moment of ultimate betrayal, he doesn't come to your aid. Instead, he orders his own ship to open fire on your bridge, aiming to wipe out both you and the Republic attackers in one blow. He thinks he succeeds. You are gone. Malak seizes control of the entire Sith war machine, crowns himself the new Dark Lord, and continues the conquest. But Malak, he doesn't have the idea and the vision you had. He just has the anger and the ambition. He doesn't want to rebuild the galaxy. He just wants to rule the ashes. The war immediately gets worse. Much, much worse. All the subtlety and strategy you employed is gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated carnage. Planets are glassed from orbit. Civilian centers are bombed to sow terror. Malak rules through fear alone. He's a thug who's been handed the keys to the ultimate weapon. Meanwhile, you aren't dead. The Jedi found you. Your mind was shattered by the combined trauma of Malak's betrayal and the damage to your ship. The Jedi Council, in a move that is incredibly controversial and goes against their own core principles, makes a choice. They wipe your memory clean. They reprogram your entire identity. They give you a new name, a new face, and implant basic Jedi teachings. Then they send you back out to fight the Sith, hoping your innate skills and knowledge would resurface and guide them to victory. They turned their greatest enemy into their ultimate weapon. So, this amnesiac version of you is thrust into the war all over again, this time on the side of the Republic. You're a blank slate, but your skills are still there. Your combat prowess, your strategic mind. You rise through the ranks again, fighting the very forces you created. You befriend Bastila Shan, the Jedi who was there during your death, and together you work to uncover the mystery of the Sith Empire's new weapons and strategies, which, of course, are the strategies you invented. You eventually learn the truth. You have to face the horrifying reality of who you were. You have to confront the ruins of worlds you destroyed, the ghosts of Jedi you killed or corrupted. You have to face Malak, your former best friend, the man you trained and who betrayed you. And ultimately, you have to face the monster you yourself created. You win. You make it to the Starforge and destroy it. You defeat Malak in a final epic duel. The Sith Empire, built entirely around the power of the Starforge and the will of two men, shatters into 1,000 warring factions. But the galaxy isn't saved. It's scarred, it's broken, it's fragile. The Republic is a hollowed-out shell. Its military is shattered, its treasury drained. Whole sectors are devastated, worlds left as radioactive graveyards. The political will to rebuild is crippled by corruption and infighting. The Jedi Order is decimated. They've lost countless knights, slain in battle, or worse, turned to the dark side by your persuasive power. And you just disappear. You're a living wound in the Force, a being who is both the savior and the destroyer. You leave behind a galaxy that's been broken twice, first by your brutal, efficient conquest, and then by the even more brutal and chaotic struggle to stop your out-of-control apprentice. Alright, so Revan's war is over, the Starforge is dust, Malak is dead, the Jedi Order is a ghost of itself, scattered and reeling, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Into this power vacuum, something awful slithers out of the cracks. This isn't a new Sith Empire with fleets and armies. This is the Sith Triumvirate, and they're less of a government and more of a three-part horror story. Think of them as three different answers to the question, what is the absolute worst thing the dark side can do to a person? First, you have Darth Nihilus. This guy might be the most purely terrifying thing the Sith ever created. His story starts in the mess of the Mandalorian Wars. He was on Malachor 5 when Revan activated the Mass Shadow Generator, the super weapon that literally crushed the entire Mandalorian fleet and broke the planet. The psychic scream of death from that event was so powerful, it broke reality for a second. He was caught in that wave. It hollowed him out. He became a walking wound in the Force, an empty suit that used to be a man. And the only thing that could fill that void, the only thing that could keep him existing, was the Force itself. The life force of other living things. He's not a man. He's a predator, a force of nature. He doesn't conquer worlds, he feeds on them. His ship, the Ravager, it's a tomb he pilots. He speaks a language that can't be understood by the living, but his will is absolute. He'll float into a system, and he'll just eat it. He'll drain every living thing on the planet, every person, every animal, every blade of grass, until the world is just a silent, dead rock. He's hunger incarnate, the ultimate consumer. Then there's Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain. He's been broken so many times, in battle, by betrayal, by his own bottomless hatred. He's a collection of shattered bones and ripped flesh, a corpse that refuses to die because his anger is just too strong. Every second of his existence is pure agony, and he uses that pain as his weapon. He can't be killed. You can cut him down, blast him apart, and he'll just pull himself back together, fueled by his own suffering and rage. He's the perpetual victim who has become the ultimate bully. He doesn't rule through fear of death. He rules through the fear of something much worse, his existence. The fear of an endless, painful life without peace or release. And then you have the mastermind, Darth Trier, the Lord of Betrayal. Before she was Trier, she was a Jedi Master named Kreia. She taught Revan. She saw his potential, and she saw the Jedi Council's failure to understand him. She believes in the Force, but she hates it. She sees it as a manipulative, cosmic puppet master that plays with the lives of mortals for its own amusement. The Jedi listen to it like obedient dogs. The Sith rage against it like spoiled children. She thinks they're all fools. Her philosophy is pure calculated spite. She wants to break the game entirely, to find a way to kill the Force itself, to sever the galaxy from its influence and set everyone truly free. She sees the Force as the root of all dependency, all weakness, all conflict. To do this, she gathers her two monstrous apprentices. She believes she can use Nihilus's infinite hunger and Sion's unkillable pain as tools, as living weapons, to create a wound in the Force so vast that it can never heal. She will teach you, nurture you, make you powerful, all so she can set you up for a perfect, tragic fall that proves her point. She will sacrifice anyone and anything to see her goal realized. Now, if you're some poor soul trying to be a Sith during this time, what's your life like? It's a nightmare. There's no empire to join, no structure, no path to power. There's just them. These three walking calamities. Your life is defined by sheer pants-wetting terror. You're not a warrior, you're potential fuel. You huddle in some hidden base or on a shattered world, trying to learn from holocrons, but the entire galaxy feels sick. The Force itself feels wrong, like the air before a tornado. You hear whispers, stories of whole systems going silent, not conquered, silent. No transmissions, no energy signatures, no life readings, just nothing. The Jedi are being hunted to the edge of extinction. The fear is a psychic poison that seeps into everything. It's not the fear of an army you can fight. It's the fear of the dark in your room, the creak on the stairs, the feeling of being watched when you're alone. It's the fear of something you can't understand or fight. You might be tempted to seek them out, to try and learn from such power. It would be the last mistake you ever make. Traya would see you as a pawn to be used and discarded in one of her philosophical experiments. Sion would kill you out of sheer irritation, and then get back up and kill you again for fun. Nihilus wouldn't even notice you. He'd just absorb your life force along with everyone else on the planet you're standing on. You're not an apprentice to them. You're a resource, or an annoyance. Their reign is the absolute bottom for the Sith. They're not building anything. They're not preserving anything. They are pure, undiluted destruction. They are the dark side, without purpose, without goal, without a single shred of light or reason left in them. And like all things that are too extreme, they contain the seeds of their own destruction. Their very natures make them incapable of truly working together. They fall, one by one, a lone Jedi known as the Exile, another survivor of the Malachor disaster, another wound in the Force, manages to defeat them. Sion is finally convinced to let go of his pain, and without his anger to hold him together, he just falls apart. Nihilus is defeated by turning his own endless hunger against him, overloading him with life until he implodes. And Traya is ultimately bested by the Exile, her own student, her final perfect lesson in betrayal taught to her. With their fall, the Sith are gone. Not almost extinct, actually, fully extinct, as far as anyone in the galaxy knows. The Triumvirate was the last gasping breath of the old broken ways. They were the final, ugly conclusion of the Sith's path of self-destruction. But from absolute zero, something new can grow. Their near-total annihilation is what creates the vacuum. It's what makes the galaxy safe for a single smart, patient man, Darth Bane, to come along later and look at this history of failure and say, no more of that, we're doing something completely different. Alright, so for a long time after the whole mess with the Sith Triumvirate, things go quiet. Then a guy named Lord Khan comes along, and he looks back at 1,000 years of Sith history, all the infighting, all the backstabbing, all the brilliant lone wolves who got taken down because they were outnumbered, and he thinks he's cracked the code. He decides the problem isn't the Jedi. The problem is us. The Sith, we're too divided, we're too busy fighting each other. If we could just stop that, if we could all work together under one banner, one brotherhood, we could finally muster the strength to crush the Jedi once and for all. This is the birth of the Brotherhood of Darkness. And man, does it sound good. It's the most compelling sales pitch the dark side has ever had. Now, imagine you're a kid on some dusty backwater planet in the Outer Rim. You're different. You've always been different. You have these moods, these bursts of anger that feel like they could shake the world. Things happen around you when you get upset. Then one day a ship arrives and a man gets out. He has a fire in his eyes. He seeks you out. He tells you you're not a monster. He tells you that power isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to be embraced. He He tells you that your anger isn't a flaw, it's a weapon. And most importantly, he tells you that you're not alone. He talks about the Brotherhood of Darkness, a place where people like you aren't shunned but celebrated, a place where you can learn to harness that power, a place with structure, with purpose, a grand army of the strong, ready to throw off the stagnant, corrupt rule of the Republic and the hypocritical Jedi who serve it. He talks about a new galaxy, built on strength, not weakness, on passion, not cold serenity. How could you possibly say no? For a lonely, powerful, angry kid, it's a dream, it's a home. So you say yes, you get on the ship. You arrive at a Sith Academy. And this isn't some hidden cave with one creepy master and a single apprentice. This is a school, a proper institution. There are thousands of students. There are barracks, classrooms, vast training grounds with obstacle courses and dueling rings. You're issued a uniform. You get 3 meals a day in a loud mess hall. For the first time in your life, you feel like you belong to something. Your days are a whirlwind of training. You learn lightsaber combat, not the elegant defensive forms of the Jedi, but aggressive, overpowering styles built on channeling your anger into every swing. You learn to focus your emotions, your rage, your fear, your hatred, into tangible power. You learn to unleash lightning from your fingertips, to choke without touching, to cloud minds and inflict pain. It's intoxicating. The teachers, all Sith Lords who've sworn allegiance to Khan's Brotherhood, push you hard. Failure is punished, but success is rewarded. The old titles like Darth are gone. That's seen as a relic of a selfish, failed past. Now it's all brother or sister or lord as a rank, not a name. We're all equals here, fighting for the same cause. That's the idea. You make connections. You have rivals in your classes. You have people you train with. You study ancient Sith texts with. You complain about the tough instructors with. It feels like a family. A twisted, angry, dangerous family, but a family nonetheless. The energy is electric. There's a sense of destiny, of being part of something huge that's about to change the galaxy. But after a while, you start to see the cracks in the painting. The Brotherhood preaches equality, but it's still the dark side. The base instincts don't just vanish. You see the way the instructors still jockey for position, for Lord Khan's favour. You see the way a student who shows a little too much talent, a little too much ambition, suddenly has a training accident and disappears. The message is clear. Be strong, but don't be too strong. Don't threaten the established order. The Brotherhood has a ceiling. An ambition that hits it gets crushed. The ideal is unity, but the reality is a pressure cooker of suppressed ambition and quiet betrayal. Eventually, you graduate. You are now a Sith warrior in the Brotherhood of Darkness. You're given your lightsaber, maybe a red crystal you bled yourself, and assigned to a unit. This is where Khan's dream meets the hard, cold reality of war. The Brotherhood is at war with the Army of Light, led by a formidable Jedi general named Lord Hoth. This isn't a shadow war. This isn't a conflict of spies and manipulation. This is a straight-up, head-on, brutal military campaign. Planets are battlefields. Fleets clash in the stars. It's messy and it's bloody. Your life becomes a cycle of deployment, combat, exhaustion, and redeployment. The Brotherhood has numbers, that's for sure. Thousands of Sith backed by legions of soldiers, humans, aliens, mercenaries, all loyal to the cause. But the Jedi have something we lack: true discipline and unity. The Army of Light moves with a single purpose. We move like a swarm. We have countless powerful individuals, each trying to prove they're the most powerful individual on the battlefield. Coordination is a constant struggle. Lord Khan isn't a military strategist. He's a politician, a cult leader. His grand strategy often boils down to overwhelming force. Throw more bodies at the problem. So that's what you are, a body. You fight in massive, chaotic battles where it's hard to tell friend from foe through the smoke and blaster fire and flashes of lightsabers. Force lightning flies wildly, often causing as much chaos among our own ranks as it does among the enemy. The idealism of the academy wears off fast, replaced by the grim reality of survival. This isn't a glorious crusade, it's a meat grinder. You stop believing in the grand philosophy of the Brotherhood and start believing only in the warrior fighting next to you, because they're the one who might deflect the bolt meant for your back. The preached equality feels like a sick joke when you see the high-ranking lords commanding from the safety of orbiting starships while you're wading through mud and blaster fire on the ground. The war drags on for years. It's a brutal stalemate. We can't break the Jedi's resolve, and they can't break our numbers. The casualties are astronomical. Entire planets are scarred by the fighting. The galaxy is burning. And for what? For Lord Khan's beautiful, flawed dream that's crumbling faster every day. The end comes on a swampy, miserable planet called Ruusan. The 7th Battle of Ruusan. It's the final showdown. Both sides throw every last ship, every last soldier, every last Jedi and Sith into the meat grinder. The Jedi are dug into a fortified position. We're throwing ourselves at them in wave after wave. It's a bloody, exhausting deadlock. There's no strategy left, just attrition. And that's when Khan, desperate, paranoid, and watching his grand brotherhood shatter around him, makes his move. He gets his hands on the secret of an ancient, forbidden Sith ritual, the Thought Bomb, a weapon of absolute final destruction. It requires many Sith Lords to pool their power together. It will create a psychic vortex that will annihilate every Force-sensitive being on the planet, Jedi and Sith alike. It will destroy the enemy completely, but it will also destroy everyone who helps create it. He doesn't frame it as suicide. He frames it as the ultimate act of unity, the ultimate sacrifice for the Brotherhood, to die together as one, to ensure victory, to become legends. Think about the profound weakness, the sheer desperation in that. The leader of the Brotherhood of Darkness, the man who preached strength and unity, has no real strength left. His final brilliant solution is to convince all his most powerful followers to kill themselves with him. It's the most pathetic, cowardly end imaginable. Every Jedi, every Sith Lord who joined Khan in that ritual, their minds, their spirits, their very presence in the Force, obliterated, snuffed out. You're left standing there, maybe just a regular soldier, or a low-level acolyte too far from the epicenter, with no idea what just happened. The battle is over. The war is over. The Brotherhood of Darkness is just gone. It died because its core idea was a beautiful lie. You cannot chain the dark side to a philosophy of equality. The dark side is, at its heart, about the individual, about personal power, ambition, and supremacy. Trying to make it a collectivist, communal project was a contradiction that was always destined to explode. The Brotherhood didn't fail because it was weak. It failed because it tried to defy its own nature. For the few Sith who survived elsewhere in the galaxy, the catastrophe at Ruusan is the final, undeniable proof. The old way, armies, academies, open warfare, is a dead end. It leads only to failure and annihilation. The Jedi would record this as the end of the new Sith Wars. For us, it was the end of an illusion. Alright, so the Sith are a mess, a complete and total disaster. For centuries, it's been one humiliation after another. Big armies, big wars, big losses. Every time they pop their heads up, the Jedi smash them back down. Exar Kun, gone. Revan, gone. The Brotherhood of Darkness, wiped out in a single catastrophic move. The problem is obvious to anyone who's paying attention. The Sith are their own worst enemy. They're like a bucket of crabs. Every time one tries to climb out, the others pull it back down. They're so busy fighting each other for scraps of power that they never have the strength to actually fight the Jedi. They're a mob, a blunt instrument, and blunt instruments break. Now, meet Darth Bane, a guy named Dessel, covered in dirt and despair, swinging a pickaxe in the cortosis mines of Apatros. Cortosis is a mineral that can short out a lightsaber, so it's valuable, and the work is brutal. It's a short, miserable life. You're poor, you're hungry, and you're constantly angry. That anger is the only thing that keeps you going. That's your fuel. This is where it starts, in the dark, in the dirt, with the taste of dust and your own hatred in your mouth. You get into a fight over a card game, you kill a man with your bare hands, and you have to run. You join the Sith army on Ruusan because it's the only place that'll take a fugitive. You're not a believer, you're just trying to survive. But you see it. You see the Brotherhood of Darkness firsthand. Lord Khan's so-called equal Sith. And it's a joke, it's a committee. They're all supposed to be brothers, but they're all secretly plotting to knife each other in the back. They're weak. They've diluted the dark side, trying to make it a group activity. They've traded true power for the illusion of safety in numbers. You, on the other hand, you've got a gift, a connection to the dark side that's raw and powerful. It's the same anger that kept you swinging that pickaxe, but now you're learning to focus it. You rise through the ranks fast because you're ruthless and effective. But the whole time, you're disgusted. These Sith Lords, they're playing at war. They don't understand the first thing about true power. Everything comes to a head with the thought bomb. Khan's final desperate, idiotic move. They'd rather die together than see one of their rivals succeed. It's a pact of losers. You feel its pull, the call to join the ritual, to give yourself over to that collective suicide. But your will, forged in the mines and hardened in real battle, is stronger. You refuse, you turn your back on them, and you walk away. You feel the psychic shockwave as it detonates, wiping out every single Sith Lord and Jedi on Ruusan. The silence that follows is absolute, and in that silence you understand. You are the last one, the only Sith Lord left in the entire galaxy. And instead of feeling lonely, you feel focused. For the first time, the path is clear. The problem was never the Jedi. The problem was the Sith. Their numbers, their infighting, their weakness. The old way is dead. It died on Ruusan. If the Sith are to survive, they need a new way, a smarter way. You retreat, you study the ancient holocrons, you delve into the deepest Sith philosophies that Khan and his fools ignored, and you have a revelation. Power isn't in numbers, it's in concentration. The dark side isn't a group activity, it's a personal journey, a relentless pursuit of perfection. You can't have 1,000 mediocre Sith squabbling. You need one perfect Sith master and one perfect apprentice. The master embodies the power of the dark side. The apprentice craves it. The master teaches the apprentice everything he knows, and the apprentice's sole purpose is to grow strong enough to one day kill the master and take his place. And in doing so, they prove they are stronger, more worthy. Then they take an apprentice of their own, and the cycle continues. Each generation will be stronger than the last. The Sith will evolve. They will become sharper, more cunning, more powerful, hidden in the shadows, pulling the strings of the galaxy until the time is right. No more pointless wars, no more petty squabbles. Just two, one to have the power and one to crave it. This is the rule of two. But there's a problem, a last lingering symbol of the old weakness. The Sith may be gone on Ruusan, but there are others, survivors. Students from the academies, wounded officers, dark side adepts, who weren't important enough to be invited to Khan's final party. They're scattered, hiding, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They are a disease, a relapse waiting to happen. You can't have that. The new order must be pure, it must be perfect. There is no room for the old failed ideas. So you do what must be done. You become the exterminator. You hunt them down, every last one. You travel from world to hidden bases and remote outposts. You find them, these scared, lost remnants of a dead order, and you give them a choice. They can swear allegiance to you, to the new way, or they can die. And when they inevitably prove themselves weak, when they try to bargain, when they try to form little alliances against you, you show them the difference between the old Sith and the new. You don't fight them as equals, you annihilate them. You show them the focused, absolute power of the dark side in its pure, undiluted form. You are not their brother, you are their executioner. It's not a war, it's a purge, a necessary surgery to cut out the cancer of the past. You kill them all, every single one. You become the monster in their final moments, the embodiment of the new, ruthless standard. And when it is done, you are truly alone. But you are not the end. You are the beginning. You take an apprentice, a young girl named Zana. You train her. You teach her the rule of two. You show her the power she can wield. And you watch her. You watch the hunger grow in her eyes. You know, with absolute certainty, that one day she will try to kill you. And you welcome it. Because if she succeeds, it will mean you were right. It will mean the Sith are stronger for it. Your life from this point on is a paradox. You are both the master and the future victim. Your entire existence is dedicated to building the weapon that will one day destroy you. You live in the shadows. You manipulate events from behind the scenes. You begin the long, patient work of weakening the Republic and the Jedi, not with fleets, but with secrets, with corruption, with economics. You are a ghost, a myth. But you have done it. You have taken a broken, failed religion and given it a future. You have traded the fleeting glory of 1,000 Sith for the eternal victory of 2. You have ensured that the Sith will never again be found on a battlefield. They will be found in the shadows behind the throne, in the whisper that topples a government, in the perfect patient strike that no one sees coming. The era of the army is over. The era of the assassin has begun, and it will last for 1,000 years. So you've made your choice. You've swallowed the anger, you've let the hate flow through you, and some terrifyingly powerful individual in a black robe has decided you're not completely useless. Congratulations, you're now a Sith apprentice. Get ready for the worst internship in the history of the universe, with a 99% mortality rate and the worst benefits package imaginable. Your dental plan is, don't get punched in the mouth. Forget everything you think you know about learning. This isn't some Jedi temple with classes on the moral implications of force levitation or group meditation sessions where you all share your feelings. There's no syllabus, no guidance counselor, and the only parent-teacher conference is your master force choking you for asking a stupid question. This is a one-on-one mentorship program built on a foundation of 3 things: pain, fear, and the constant looming promise of betrayal. It's less of an education and more of a prolonged, violent hazing ritual. This is life under the rule of 2. As we said, the whole philosophy is brutally simple, almost elegant in its viciousness. 2 there shall be. 1 to embody the power, and 1 to crave it. That's it. That's the whole song and dance. It's a pyramid scheme where the only way to get a promotion is to murder your direct supervisor. You're not a student, you're a live-in successor. You're the understudy who's secretly sharpening a knife, waiting for the lead actor to finally slip up. And the crazy part? Your boss wants you to try. He'd be deeply disappointed if you didn't. He's counting on it. In a weird, twisted way, it's the only form of respect a Sith has. He's not trying to create a lifelong partner. He's trying to forge a weapon so sharp and so deadly that it will one day be capable of killing him. If you can't manage that, then you were never worthy of the power in the first place. You're a failed experiment, and failed experiments get disposed of. There's no retirement plan for Sith Lords. You either die on your apprentice's blade, or you get weak and die on your master's. There is no third option. So what does a day in the life actually look like? Most of it is, well, it's brutal, mundane, and incredibly, uncomfortably intimate. It's a routine designed to break you. It starts before dawn. Your training is everything, all the time. It's mornings spent in physical conditioning that would make a commando weep. We're talking running through toxic bogs wearing weighted gear, climbing sheer rock faces with your fingertips while your master pelts you with rocks using the Force, holding your breath underwater until your lungs scream, and then being held under for another minute just to really drive the point home. Your master isn't teaching you lightsaber forms. He's trying to break your body down to its absolute limit so you can rebuild it stronger, fueled by your own pain and rage. Every muscle ache, every strained tendon, every time you vomit from exhaustion, that's not a setback, that's the lesson. The pain is the point. You learn to savor it, to drink it in like water, because that pain is what connects you to the dark side. It's the most honest conversation you'll ever have. Your body tells you it's breaking, and you tell it to shut up and get stronger. Then comes the academic stuff. And I use the term academic very, very loosely. This isn't sitting in a library. This is your master pacing around you in some dank chamber on a forgotten world, drilling Sith dogma into your head like he's trying to put screws into your brain. He's not teaching you history. He's teaching you a grudge. He's telling you about the Jedi not as philosophical opponents, but as hypocritical monsters who betrayed and massacred the Sith and have been lying about it for 1,000 generations. He's painting a picture of a galaxy that owes you everything and is actively trying to keep it from you. He's feeding your paranoia, teaching you that the entire galaxy is either a threat to be eliminated or a tool to be used. Trust is the galaxy's most expensive commodity, and you can't afford it. He'll have you study politics, economics, military strategy, not for a test, but so you can learn how to manipulate them. Your homework might be to identify the 3 weakest points in a planet's trade network to cause maximum economic collapse. Your final exam is actually doing it. The intimacy of it is the weirdest part. This person is your enemy, your teacher, your jailer, and the only other being in the entire galaxy who understands what you're becoming. You see them at their most powerful and their most vulnerable. You might spend an afternoon learning how to harness Force lightning by literally being electrocuted by them until you black out, and then later that night, You're serving them some horrible bitter tea while they complain about the bureaucratic incompetence of the Trade Federation or some corrupt senator who's being difficult. It's a mind screw of epic proportions. The lightsaber training is where this all comes to a head. These aren't sparring matches, they're live fire exercises. Your master isn't holding back. Every clash of the blade is meant to teach a lesson, usually through the application of searing pain. You will get cut, you will get burned. I'm not talking about a little nick on the arm, I'm talking about injuries that would be fatal without immediate medical attention. The lesson is simple. Be better or be dead. There's no second place. You learn Form 5 by having your master's lightsaber slammed against your guard, with enough force to shatter your bones until you learn to absorb and redirect the energy. You learn Form 7 Juyo, the most aggressive form, by being pushed into a blind rage until you forget all technique and just try to survive on instinct and hatred. The saber becomes an extension of your pain, and through it all, there's this unspoken game being played. This dance. You're both waiting for the moment you think you're strong enough to make your move. But you can't try too early. If you challenge your master before you're ready, it's not a duel, it's an execution. He'll end you without a second thought and go find a new apprentice who's less impatient. There's always another angry kid in the galaxy, but you also can't wait too long. Because if your master senses you're getting too powerful, that you might actually be a legitimate threat, he might decide to cut his losses and eliminate you first. It's a perpetual state of walking on a knife's edge. You have to hide your growing power, practice in secret, all while projecting just enough strength to prove you're not a waste of his time. But not so much that you look like an imminent threat. You have to lie to the greatest liar in the galaxy. It's the ultimate test of deception. It's a psychological nightmare. You're constantly being gaslit by the most powerful gaslighter in the sector. They'll praise you for a skill mastered one day, and the next day, they'll use that same skill against you as proof of your arrogance. You're living with a person who has a vested interest in your success, but only if that success ultimately leads to their own death at your hands. Wrap your head around that for a second. The better you are, the more you please the person you are destined to kill. It creates a feedback loop of conflict that fuels the dark side in both of you. Your master grows stronger, trying to stay ahead of you, and you grow stronger, trying to catch up. This is the crucible. This is what forges a Sith Lord. You learn to be strong, to be cunning, to be patient, and to be utterly, ruthlessly selfish. You learn that every relationship is a ladder, and every emotion is a lever to be pulled. Because the only thing waiting for you at the end of this path is a throne, and the only way to get to it is over the cold, dead body of the only person in the galaxy who ever gave you a chance. The ultimate lesson of the rule of two is that you are, and always will be, completely and utterly alone. And that isolation is the greatest source of your power. So you survive your apprenticeship. Congrats, you've done the impossible. You've overthrown your master, taken his title, and now all that power is yours. The galaxy should be trembling at your feet, right? Time to march on the Jedi Temple, lightsaber held high, and let everyone know the Sith are back in town. If that's your plan, you're going to have a really, really short reign. See, the smart Sith, the ones who actually lasted more than a week after the Rule of Two started, they realized something crucial. You can't beat the Jedi in a straight fight, not anymore. The Jedi have numbers, they have institutions, they have the entire Republic backing them up. You have you, and maybe one angry apprentice. So what do? You get sneaky. For 1,000 years, this is the Sith game plan. This is the long, patient, silent war, fought not on battlefields, but in boardrooms, on trading floors, and in the dark, smoky back rooms of Coruscant's elite clubs. This is the era where the Sith become shadows. They don't want to be seen, they want to own the light source. Think of it like this: the Jedi are the police. They're walking the beat, visible in their bright robes, responding to crimes. But the Sith, they're the crime lords. They're the ones who own the casinos, the shipping companies, the politicians. The cops are always reacting to the mess, never realizing who's actually making the mess happen. Your life is about building a persona. You need a cover story, so airtight, so boringly normal, that a Jedi could bump into you at the opera and feel absolutely nothing from you, but a vague sense of mild annoyance. You become a banker, a shipping magnate. You wear a suit, not robes. You talk about interest rates and trade tariffs, not the power of the dark side. The galaxy has to forget you ever existed. The Jedi think you're extinct, and your number one goal is to keep them thinking that. Every action you take, every move you make, has to be deniable, untraceable, and look like anything but the work of a Sith. A rival corporation goes bankrupt, just ruthless business. A political opponent has a scandalous affair exposed, the free press at work. A planet suddenly has a food shortage because its imports were misdirected. A tragic bureaucratic error. Nothing to see here. Certainly no ancient order of space wizards pulling strings. This is where the real work begins, infiltration. You're not storming the castle gates. You're bribing the gatekeeper, poisoning the well, and buying the castle's mortgage. You identify the pressure points of the galaxy, and you lean on them, gently, slowly. Noble houses are a perfect target. Old money, lots of influence, and usually a whole lot of pride and secrets. You find a struggling house, maybe one that's about to lose its status, and you make them an offer they can't refuse. A charitable donation. A lucrative business deal that just fell into their lap. All you ask for in return is the occasional favour. A vote in the Senate, access to their private archives, an introduction to their friends. You make them dependent on you. They become your puppets, and they don't even know who's holding the strings. They think they're using you for your money. The arrogance of the aristocracy is their own weakness, and you just feed it back to them. Trade routes are the lifeblood of the Republic. Control the money, control the food, control the hyperlanes, and you control everything. So, you get into logistics. It sounds boring as hell, but it's where the real power is. You start a shipping company, or you quietly acquire a bunch of them through shell corporations. Suddenly, you can make sure weapons accidentally end up in the hands of pirates, causing trouble in the Outer Rim. You can delay food shipments to a sector that's getting a little too independent-minded, fostering unrest. You can make a rival's business suddenly, mysteriously, become unprofitable. You can move anything, anywhere, and no one asks questions because you're just a simple, law-abiding merchant. It's the perfect camouflage. And the whole time, you have to be more paranoid than a Gungan in a sandstorm. The Jedi are everywhere. Their temple is right there on Coruscant, the center of everything. You have to be careful with the Force. Using it is like turning on a giant spotlight in a dark room. Your relationship with your own apprentice changes too. You can't exactly put an ad on the HoloNet. Wanted, angry individual for eventual patricide. Benefits include unlimited power and a cool cape. Finding an apprentice is a decades-long project. You're constantly scanning the galaxy, looking for that raw, untamed potential. Maybe it's a slave on a dust bowl like Tatooine, radiating anger like a furnace. Maybe it's a disillusioned Jedi like Dooku, already powerful, but feeling the constraints of the Order. You identify them, and then you begin the long, patient process of grooming them from the shadows. You become their mysterious benefactor, their mentor via cryptic messages. You orchestrate tragedies in their life to push them toward the dark side, all while making it look like random chance. You're writing their life story, and they don't even know you're the author. This is why so many Sith Lords from this era are portrayed as incredibly patient, cunning strategists. They had to be. Darth Tenebrous, for example, was a brilliant scientist and manipulator who worked from the shadows for decades. His public face was that of a famous starship designer. He literally built the vessels the galaxy relied on, all while plotting its downfall. That's next-level hiding. The goal isn't to win a battle. The goal is to make the entire galaxy so sick, so corrupt, so weak, and dependent on the systems you control, that when you finally decide to make your move, the whole rotten structure just collapses at the slightest push. You're not building an army to attack the Republic. You're making the Republic into your army, and they don't even know it. You live a double life so profound that the line between your mask and your real self starts to blur. The nobleman, the businessman, that persona becomes a prison of your own making. You rule from a throne no one can see, in a palace that doesn't exist, commanding an army of ghosts. Your greatest victory is that the galaxy goes to sleep every night completely unaware that you exist. And your greatest weapon is their ignorance. So you've spent a few centuries in the shadows. Your bloodline, your Sith lineage, has been playing the long game, pulling strings, getting richer and more powerful, without anyone ever knowing your name. It's a good gig. You're the ultimate ghost in the machine. But eventually, A Sith comes along who looks at this setup and thinks, is this it? Is the pinnacle of 1,000 years of secret planning just being the wealthiest, most influential secret in the galaxy? Is the ultimate goal of the dark side just to be a really successful manager of a corrupt portfolio? For most Sith, yeah, that's probably enough. But then there's Darth Plagueis. This guy, this moon banker, he asked a different question. He looked at the rule of two, this perfect engine for creating power, and he saw its one fatal flaw. It ends. I mean, think about it. You spend your entire life scheming, building, mastering the dark side. You finally kill your master and take the throne. You get, what, a few decades of rule if you're lucky, maybe 60, 70 years. And then what? You get old, you get slow, your eyesight goes. You start forgetting where you put your lightsaber, and some young, hungry punk you trained yourself comes along and guts you like a fish. All that power, all that knowledge, just gone, passed on to the next guy who'll eventually get got himself. It's a cycle, a hamster wheel. And Plagueis, being a moon, a species known for their crazy long lifespans and their love of big complex financial schemes, looked at this hamster wheel and decided he was going to break it. He wasn't going to win the game, he was going to own the casino. His master, Tenebrous, was a smart guy. He taught Plagueis to see the Force not just as this mystical energy field, but as a set of laws, something that could be studied, understood, and most importantly, manipulated. Plagueis took that idea and ran with it straight off a cliff. He became obsessed with the ultimate scientific problem, death. Not how to cause it, everybody knew how to do that. So begins the quest for immortality. And this becomes your entire life if you're Plagueis. Your apprenticeship under him, it's a crash course in the most esoteric, dangerous biosorcery the galaxy has ever seen. You're not just a Sith apprentice, you're a lab assistant in the world's worst funded, most unethical medical research facility. He'd used the Force to push a being to the very brink of death. Their heart stopped, brain activity flatlining, and then he'd try to use his own will to jumpstart them back to life. He wasn't trying to heal, he was trying to resurrect. And he used living test subjects for this, usually his apprentices or anyone else unfortunate enough to be around. Failure wasn't a setback, it was a corpse on the floor that you had to clean up. He delved into the very essence of life, the midi-chlorians. The Jedi see them as symbiotic beings that allow them to listen to the Force. Plagueis saw them as a biological lock, and he wanted to find the key. He believed that by dominating the midi-chlorians, he could command life itself. He could create it from nothing. He could sustain it indefinitely. He could snatch it back from the void. And the wild thing is, he was starting to figure it out. The legends say he got so powerful, so precise with his manipulations, that he could actually keep someone from dying. Not forever, but he could stave off death through sheer force of will. He could influence the midi-chlorians to create life. There is even a theory that Darth Plagueis may have been responsible for the very birth of Anakin Skywalker. This is where his dream gets bigger. He dreams of an eternal Sith dynasty. He's going to end the rule of two. Why have an apprentice who will kill you when you can just not die? Instead, he would become the eternal master, the permanent God King of the Sith. He would create a new line of Sith, powerful beings he would craft himself through the Force, who would serve him forever. He would be the first and last word of the dark side for all time. He was planning a hostile takeover of existence. Now, let's look at this from the perspective of his apprentice. A young, fiercely ambitious, and terrifyingly patient human from Naboo named Sheev Palpatine, who, by the way, took the Sith name Sidious. What's it like being the apprentice to a guy like this? At first, it's incredible. You're not learning how to be a thug, you're learning the actual, literal secrets of life and death. The power is intoxicating, the knowledge is immense. You're standing on the shoulders of a giant who is peering over the edge of eternity. But then, you start to see the cracks. Plagueis is so obsessed with his experiments, with his grand philosophical goal, that he starts to neglect the point of being a Sith, the ambition, the power, the rule of the galaxy. For Plagueis, political control of the Republic is just a means to an end. It's a resource base to fund his research, a system to keep the Jedi distracted. The end goal is always his immortality. For Sidious, that's heresy. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of the dark side. To him, Power isn't a scientific experiment. It's not an equation to be solved. Power is the point, ruling the galaxy, feeling every being in it tremble at your name. That is the goal. Immortality would be nice, sure, but it's a bonus feature, not the main event. He sees Plagueis becoming distracted, detached. The moon is spending more and more time in his secret labs, meditating on the mysteries of life, while the actual, practical work of corrupting the Republic is falling more and more to Sidious. Sidious is the one out there, in the Senate, making the deals, twisting the politicians, laying the groundwork for the grand plan. He's doing the real work, and he starts to realize something terrifying. If Plagueis actually succeeds, if he truly becomes immortal, then what is Sidious? He's not the apprentice, he's a permanent employee. He's a useful tool to be used for all eternity. The rule of two ends with him. He will never become the master. His entire existence, his burning ambition, is rendered null and void by his master's success. The very thing that makes Plagueis so brilliant, his obsession, is also his greatest weakness. He believes he's transcending the base Sith desire for domination. He thinks he's evolved beyond the need to constantly watch his back. He starts to trust Sidious. He sees him as a partner in his grand work. He makes the one mistake a Sith master can never, ever make. He lets his guard down. He's so focused on cheating death that he becomes blind to the very immediate, very mortal threat sleeping under his own roof. The story of that final night is the perfect Sith parable. Plagueis, after a monumental effort, actually manages to manipulate the midi-chlorians to create life. It's his greatest triumph. That very night, drunk on his own power and success, he celebrates with his trusted apprentice. He lays out his entire vision for their eternal dynasty. He sees them as partners, ruling forever. And while he sleeps, exhausted from his creation, Sidious makes his move. It's a betrayal in the dark. The man who could keep others from dying couldn't save himself. And in his final moments, he understood the cruel joke. He had spent his life trying to conquer the ultimate enemy, death itself, but he forgot about the ancient, more immediate enemy, the apprentice craving power. In trying to transcend the rule of two, he proved why it was necessary. The dark side doesn't want a philosopher king, it wants a predator. So Plagueis is dead, murdered by the very instrument he thought he'd perfected, and now the throne is empty. But the guy who just took it? He smashes the old throne and builds a new one out of the bones of the entire Republic. This is it. This is the moment every Sith for a millennium has been working towards. And the guy at the wheel is the most terrifyingly effective manipulator the galaxy will ever know. He's a conductor, and the entire galaxy is his orchestra, playing a symphony of chaos that only he can hear. Your life, if you're Sidious, is a masterpiece of double-lived insanity. You wake up in your fancy apartment on Coruscant. You put on your suit. You have your polite public face, Senator Palpatine, then Chancellor Palpatine. This guy is mild-mannered, thoughtful, a little reserved. He's a public servant from the quiet, mid-rim world of Naboo, just trying to do his best in a corrupt and complicated galaxy. He's humble, he's reasonable. People feel sorry for him, the poor Chancellor, having to deal with all these crises. And the whole time, the real you, Darth Sidious, is screaming with laughter inside. Because you're not managing these crises, you're writing them, you're directing them, you're playing every single side against the middle. Your greatest weapon was never the Force lightning, it was plausible deniability. You were always in the room where it happened, but you were never holding the knife. Need to start a war? Don't build an army yourself. Manipulate someone else into building it for you. Enter Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, the perfect fallen Jedi, the respectable face of rebellion. Sidious points him in a direction and says go, and Dooku, thinking he's a co-conspirator, builds the Separatist Alliance and its droid army. But wait, the Republic needs an army to fight that army, right? Can't have one side too powerful. So, again, don't build it yourself. Manipulate a Jedi into stumbling upon it. Have your apprentice hire a bounty hunter to recruit the template for a clone army. Give it a Jedi-sounding name like Sifo Dyas, and have it waiting in a tube for a decade until some other Jedi just happens to find it. The Jedi themselves hand you the weapon you will use to destroy them. The sheer, beautiful arrogance of that move still blows my mind. You're playing both sides so perfectly that you're essentially guaranteeing a stalemate. A war that can't be won, only managed. And who's the manager? Why the kindly Chancellor, of course, who reluctantly asks for more and more emergency powers to deal with the mess. The Senate gives them to him willingly, gratefully. They're giving the keys to the jail cell to the warden. This is the Clone Wars. Don't let the name fool you. This wasn't a war between the Republic and the Separatists. This was a Sith stage play, a galactic puppet show, and you, as Sidious, have your hands up every single puppet. The Jedi, the proud guardians of peace, become generals. They lead armies of slaves bred to die. They get their hands dirty. They become soldiers, not peacekeepers, and the whole galaxy gets used to war, to fear, to accepting authority. For the sake of safety, it's a slow poison, and you are feeding it to everyone, drop by drop. And through it all, you're already looking for the next piece. The Jedi are going to be destroyed, the Republic is going to fall, and you need an enforcer, a symbol of fear. Angry young man named Anakin Skywalker. You turn your greatest enemy into your most loyal weapon, Darth Vader. The name itself is a mockery, a dark water of invasion, of inevitable, suffocating power. Then, with everything in place, you pull the trigger. Execute Order 66. 3 words. The end of a 1,000-year-old order. The Jedi, across the galaxy, trusting their clone troopers implicitly, are gunned down by them. And in the Senate, the kindly Chancellor reveals the final act. The Jedi, he says, have betrayed the Republic. They tried to assassinate him, and for the safety of the galaxy, the Republic must be reorganized. And the Senate cheers. They stand up and they applaud. They cheer for their own prison walls going up, because he's given them an enemy, and he's promised them safety. And after years of war, safety is all they want. Just like that, the Sith don't have to hide anymore. This is life in the Galactic Empire. The shadows are gone, the light is artificial, and coming from a million Imperial propaganda screens. The Sith rule openly. Palpatine is the Emperor. He's not hiding behind a title, he's crowned himself with it. He lives in a tower that scrapes the sky on Coruscant, and his right hand is a 7-foot-tall nightmare in black armor who breathes like a machine and kills on command. Your life as a citizen? It's orderly. Terrifyingly orderly. The chaos of the war is gone, replaced by the cold, sterile certainty of the Imperial boot. Fear isn't a tool, it's the law. Stormtroopers are on every corner. Star Destroyers hang in the skies of every world, a constant reminder of who's in charge. You keep your head down. You don't ask questions. You report your neighbors for seditious talk. The Empire gives you stability, but it takes everything else in return. Your freedom, your privacy, your hope. The Emperor himself is a distant god. You see him on screens, a pale, hooded figure, speaking in riddles and threats. He doesn't have to do much. The machine he built runs itself. The Moffs, the officers, the governors, they all compete for his favor by being more ruthless than the next guy. It's a system that runs on spite and ambition. And Vader is the walking, breathing embodiment of the Emperor's will. He's not a politician. He's a natural disaster. If a planet steps out of line, they don't get a warning. They get Vader. He's the final argument, the unspoken threat behind every Imperial decree. He's the iron fist inside the velvet glove that the Empire doesn't even bother to wear anymore. This is the Sith dream realized. Not a hidden empire of influence, but an open one of absolute control. The Jedi are a memory. The Republic is a forgotten dream. The dark side doesn't just flow in the secret places anymore. It's the air everyone breathes. It's a galaxy-wide monument to one man's limitless ambition. But the thing about building your entire empire on fear is a great motivator, but it's a terrible foundation. It's brittle, it cracks under pressure. You can't terrorize everyone forever, and eventually someone gets brave. Or, more accurately, they get desperate enough that they have nothing left to fear. And that makes the rebellion grow. It's no longer a nuisance, it's a cause. And then a Jedi returns, a kid from Tatooine named Luke Skywalker. Sidious sees this, of course. He's the master manipulator. He tries to do what he's always done, turn the weapon against his enemy. He tries to seduce Luke, to make him his new apprentice. He dangles Vader's defeat in front of him. He pushes all his buttons. He brings him to the throne room on the second Death Star, and he puts on the greatest show of his life. He's going to get this new, powerful apprentice and kill the old broken one in the process. Classic Sith upgrade. But he miscalculates. He's so used to dealing in hatred that he doesn't understand the power of something else. love, redemption. Vader, Anakin, looks at his son being tortured to death by his master, and that last little spark of something that wasn't pure Sith, something that had been buried under decades of pain and machinery, it flickers. The rule of two does its thing, but not the way Sidious expected. The apprentice betrays the master, but not for power, but for his son. In the end, the mighty Darth Sidious, the Emperor of the Galaxy, the Master of the Dark Side, is defeated. And with that, the Sith Order, 1,000 years in the making, collapses. The pyramid scheme finally hits a dead end. The Master is dead. The apprentice dies moments later, his own life support failing him, but finally at peace. The throne is empty. The Empire shatters. The rebellion becomes the new republic. The galaxy has a chance to breathe again. The Sith are gone. Their legacy is a galaxy in ruins, billions dead, and a deep, lasting scar across countless worlds. They achieved absolute power, and it lasted for what? 20 years? Maybe 30? After a millennium of plotting, their reign was breathtakingly short. All that scheming, all that patience, all that hatred, and it all ended in a single, quiet act of love.